Hey, I'm Cam Bennet from My Family Podiatry, and I'm here today to answer some of the most common questions we get as podiatrists. I've doubled my sock wearability by turning them inside out on their second wear. Is this bad or fine? Oh man, this is so gross. Don't do this. Just wash your socks. You haven't doubled anything. If you turn your shirt inside out, does it still smell? Of course it does. Don't turn your socks inside out. Your socks are absorbing the sweat released by your feet. They contain the bacteria that are sitting in there breaking down that sweat. Your sock's not all that thick, so you turning it inside out, you're still exposing yourself to all those same bacteria, those fungal spores, all these different damaging agents that could be down in through the socks there. Not to mention that if you get any kind of dirt or grime on the outside of your sock, all you've done now is flip it on so that it's in contact with your skin. Don't do this. Just buy double the pairs of socks, just wash your socks, whatever you need to do. Don't flip them inside out to get more wear out of them because it's gross. My feet hurt bad after a 5-hour shift. What should I do? A 5-hour shift is not very long for your feet to be getting that badly painful. So certainly something that we want to be investigating. Obviously it depends on the activities that you're doing, the kind of shoes that you're wearing and where that pain is. But there are a whole number of different issues that can occur. If that pain is down and underneath the heel, there can be certain conditions such as plantar fasciitis that might be involved. If that pain is up into the arch, maybe the top part of the foot or even up into that leg. Certainly if you've been suffering with pain after a 5-hour shift, really after any amount of time, consult your podiatrist, find out what's going on with those feet. How do our toes affect our balance? It's a great question. The way that the foot functions as a whole, it's this intricate balance of many little bones that sit within the foot and the way that these interact with the ground and with our surfaces. All of this sensory feedback gets passed back up to the brain to allow us to balance and allow us to do our activities that we want to be doing. The toes, they form an integral part of that system. So they are providing some structure to the foot. They're providing a lot of feedback as well. Now, this isn't to say that people who lose their toes are always going to be falling over, but the toes do play a really vital role in allowing us to understand the surfaces that we're standing on and providing that balance, providing that ability to change the way that that foot functions based on the surfaces that we're loading on. Why are my feet constantly dry? What's up with that? There's many reasons why we can get dry feet. Think about the load that gets put into these feet on a daily basis. They endure a lot, standing, walking, and a lot of the time we're in open shoes, sandals, thongs, these kind of things, which expose the feet and the skin to the elements. When that happens, the environment can draw that moisture out of the skin, leading to it becoming dry. There's a number of other conditions that can lead to dryness of the skin as well. So things like psoriasis, eczema, autoimmune conditions, so even some thyroid conditions can lead to significant dryness of the skin. The big issue with dryness is when that skin starts to crack. So if your skin is getting dry enough to the point that it's splitting or cracking, these cracks can get deep enough that they bleed, become infected, and become really painful. So typically as a podiatrist, we'll be trying to identify where that dryness is coming from, looking at shoes that kind of keep that moisture in there, using appropriate moisturizers and emollients to really return some moisture to the skin, and just looking at ways that we can ensure that your skin is well looked after. My feet smell, help. Yeah, oh no. It can be a big issue for many people, and there's a whole range of different reasons why this can occur. One of the most common ones is just basically a lack of sort of hygiene. So the feet themselves, they've got a lot of sweat glands in there. That sweat comes out, is broken down by various bacteria that sit on our feet, which can produce a certain odor. If we're keeping on top of cleanliness, we're changing socks regularly, we're wearing socks, we're not in shoes without socks, we can keep that build up to a minimum, which is going to reduce some of that smell. Wearing enclosed shoes that don't have socks on, the bacteria, these odor causing agents can get trapped within the shoes, and that can lead to an ongoing issue with sort of smelly, nasty kind of feet. There are some conditions that can develop, which can lead to increased smells. And if you are really concerned about it, I would recommend consulting with a podiatrist just to identify it, but make sure that you're wearing clean socks, changing them regularly, and trying to avoid enclosed shoes without any sort of socks. I've recently developed an ingrown toenail. What do I do and how did this happen? There are many reasons for developing ingrown toenails, and these things can be awful. With the number of nerve endings that we have down into the feet and the toes there, such a small piece of nail digging into the skin can result in significant pain. It can result in some pretty nasty infections, and they can get quite serious. This infection can start to track up the toe, even leading into the bone or into the bloodstream. So certainly something that we want to get on top of ASAP. Now, why did it happen? There's a number of different reasons why ingrowns can occur. For some people, they're just really unlucky and that nail sits a little bit too wide for the nail bed. So wearing shoes, walking, different activities can lead to that nail cutting into the skin and becoming ingrown. In other instances, trauma to that nail, it getting squashed or damaged, can lead to small pieces of that nail breaking off, going into the skin, these little spikes. That can result in an ingrown toenail too. Inappropriate cutting as well. So by cutting that nail too short, cutting that nail down into the side can leave a small sharp edge. This also occurs with picking. So people who pick at their nails, that nail can peel back, break off, and result in a small spike that digs into that skin, becomes ingrown. In terms of how to manage them, there's a couple of little tricks that you can try at home first. So I'd recommend soaking in some warm salty water for 1 to 2 minutes. So we don't want to leave it in there for too long. Pop it in that warm salty water, see if it drains anything out and whether that toe can settle back down. Working to gently move that skin away from the edge of the nail as well. Reducing some of that pressure allows it to improve. Now, if you've tried both of these things, don't next go to trying to cut it out yourself. Call a professional, call a podiatrist. We have some special tools that we can use to really cut down into the side there, remove the small ingrown piece of nail and try and prevent it from coming back. The issue with trying to treat it yourself, cutting it out yourself, what we frequently see is people will leave a small sharp spike of nail left in there, and it's then far harder to get out afterwards. So if you just give us a call straight away, we can do it as painlessly as possible for you, remove that edge and settle things back down. Why do we wear shoes when our ancestors never did? There's lots of stuff that we never used to do that we do now, but also the activities that we're doing on a daily basis now are quite different as well. So think about the surfaces that we're standing and walking on today. They're very different to what a lot of our ancestors were on. You know, they were on grasses, dirt, these kind of surfaces. We're on cement, bitumen, all these hard surfaces, which really change the way that our feet interact with the rest of our body, with the way that they absorb forces and with the loads that we place onto the tissues throughout our body. So there's two main ways that shoes are working to protect us. So the environment that we're in, those shoes are providing a direct protection from some of these sharp surfaces, things that we might cut our feet on, step on, otherwise damage the skin or the surrounding tissue that's around there. But they're also working on reducing some of those forces that otherwise load up our joints. So many shoes will have a little bit of cushioning in through there. They may have some support to enable that foot to function a little bit better, reduce some of the load that we'd otherwise be experiencing as we walk, run, and perform the different activities that we need to on a daily basis. So shoes certainly have their place in the environments that we find ourselves in, which are very, very different environments to what many of our ancestors were in. Grime under my toenails smell. What's up with that? Yeah, it's gross. Underneath those toenails, look, we can get an accumulation of so much different gross stuff, from dead skin, dirt, pieces of sock, who knows what else that can work its way in underneath or into the side of those nails, impact down in underneath there and just get trapped there. There's a huge number of bacteria that exist on the feet. They can work their way in, start to break some stuff down, create some pretty gnarly little processes that sit down in beside those toenails there. And that can lead to a potential odor that occurs when you remove that grime. So certainly good to remove it, get it out from in underneath there, but it might be best to soak that toe in a little bit of warm salty water and then just work its way out. All right, my favorite. Should I start running barefoot? Almost certainly no. So there are very, very few people who should go running barefoot right off the bat. Now, the reason I say that, most people, especially in the Western world, have been conditioned to wearing a particular type of shoes. The way that these shoes impact some of our tissue structures means that a rapid transition from wearing a pair of running shoes to running barefoot can result in issues with the plantar surface of the foot, the plantar fascia, with the Achilles tendon, and with the other muscles that run in through the foot, ankle, and lower leg. With appropriate training, people can get towards a barefoot running style, depending on why they're looking to do this, because there was a whole movement a few years ago where many, many people wanted to barefoot run, and that was fine. It was great for podiatry business because we saw lots of people come in with various injuries, Achilles tendon injuries, foot injuries, because they were not appropriately conditioned to these sort of activities in a barefoot shoe. The question you have to ask is, why are you looking to run barefoot? If you tell me it's because you want to get back more to nature and feeling this, I question why you sleep on a mattress, whether you take antibiotics when you're sick, all of these kind of things, because these things are meant to improve our quality of life and reduce some of the load into these structures. If it's that you find issue with running shoes, and particularly the shape of running shoes, not a problem. Let's discuss that. Let's work on a tailored approach to getting you to a barefoot running shoe, and maybe something that's going to be more appropriate for your particular foot type. But if you've just been caught up in the fad of some friend telling you that you should start running barefoot, question their qualifications before you start doing it. Are orthotics worth it? It depends. It depends on the person. So it really depends on what's going on. There are certain people for who orthotics are a fantastic therapy. They reduce load in tissues. They take stress out. They get someone who was hobbled one day to pain-free or a very limited amount of pain the next. They can be incredible in the way that they work, but then there's others that do absolutely nothing. It really depends on the person and the orthotic that you're using. So my recommendation would always be to consult with a podiatrist. We make something called a custom orthotic. This is designed to your foot. What that ensures is whatever control that you need, whatever prescription that you need to deload the tissues in your feet and legs, that can be applied to the orthotic, compared to something that's just out of a packet, which may or may not be appropriate for your foot. If and when you consult with a podiatrist though, I would always question, why is the orthotic the best option? What your podiatrist should be able to tell you is where this orthotic fits within a treatment program. Some people, due to structural changes within their feet or legs, will benefit from a long-term orthotic solution, where others should be able to strengthen themselves back up to a point that they're less required. So I'd always be asking what the long-term plan is regarding this orthotic. What is a bunion? Because I think I have one. Bunions are something we see so often in the clinic. There are many reasons why bunions can develop. Basically a bunion, so you have your big toe joint here. We start to see that pushing across and deviating. That leads to a little bit more of a protrusion out through the side here, and that toe can really start to push across towards that second. What can happen in severe cases, that toe can even start to cross over the top of that second one, or sometimes underneath it. As you can imagine, pretty painful. It can lead to some swelling and redness around that site, and really impact the way that you go about walking. So there's a number of reasons why bunions can develop. Some people do have a little bit of a genetic predisposition to it. So maybe mum, grandma had bunions. This can impact the way that the ligaments hold the structures together and may make you more prone to developing a bunion. Other people, the type of footwear that they wear. So wearing a really narrow pointed shoe does increase the likelihood that you'll develop a bunion because that toe gets pushed across. Avoiding shoes with a really narrow toe box that squashes up that foot can be a great way of trying to avoid this. The other way that bunions can develop is based on the way that we walk. So if the feet turn outward, if we roll through, all of these things can put pressure onto the inside part of that big toe and slowly push it across over time. Not everyone whose mother had a bunion will develop a bunion. Not everyone who walks with a flat foot will develop a bunion, but all these things can feed together to increase the likelihood of it happening. If you've already started to develop a bunion, my recommendations, have a look at your footwear. If you're in really narrow pointed shoes, you're wearing stilettos a lot of the time, narrow pointed boots, avoid these. Find a shoe that more appropriately fits your foot and that will reduce a lot of that pressure that's pushing that toe across. If you're not doing this and you're still developing some issues, I would absolutely recommend consulting with a podiatrist. What we will be looking at is the way that your feet are functioning, and you may require a little bit more support that sits in underneath that arch there to reduce some of the pressure that's pushing onto the side. By doing this and changing our footwear, we can often reduce the pain that you're experiencing, reduce how quickly that bunion develops, and hopefully avoid any kind of surgery. Now, if that bunion is just it's too painful, it's causing too much issue day to day, there is a surgical, or there are multiple surgical interventions that can happen, but I would recommend consulting with your podiatrist first. We can try some less invasive treatments, and then if we're still not quite able to get you out of the pain that we need, we can start to look into more surgical interventions at that point. Thanks guys for all your questions. If you have any other podiatry related questions or foot concerns, make sure to reach out to My Family Podiatry. Thanks guys.